I'm Dr. Heather Johnson and I'm here at PowerGen Europe in the beautiful and historic city of Amsterdam. And I'm joined by Mark Garnet, VP of Doosan's European region. Nice to meet you, Mark.
Nice to meet you. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Well, let's sort of kick off our discussion and just let's focus on Doosan's global footprint. I mean, it's obviously a very well-known brand. So just kind of talk me through the kind of key markets that Doosan's operating in at the moment.
Okay, we're a global business. We operate globally and we operate in a significant number of the power markets. Coal is a main power market for us. And we operate Southeast Asia, we operate in the US, we operate in America, Middle East, and mainly on coal plant and also on gas-fired combined cycle plant, but we also have renewable technology and fuel cells, so we have a whole mixed bag. Europe is very important to us. It's a growing area, but a challenging area at the moment.
Yes, very much so. Can we explore that in more detail? It's very useful to kind of talk to people that are, excuse the pun, right at the coalface in Europe, with it being the market conditions at the moment. Yeah.
Well, actually, we see the biggest market in Europe, actually not in Europe, it's in Turkey, which is next to Europe. We see coal in Western Europe pretty much zero emissions because of the environmental drives and things like that. A little bit in Poland, a little bit in Central Eastern Europe. Renewables will dominate going forward, certainly over the next 5-10 years, and we've seen that, and that will continue to happen. Turkey's a big market for us. Yeah. And I know you're thinking about looking at Turkey and
it's obviously a market that we are keeping a very close eye on, as obviously a lot of our clients are and too. So just going back to more the conventional power in kind of Western Europe, what about looking at the service and maintenance of the existing fleet in Europe? How's Doosan seeing that part of their business?
Well, we're trying to expand that. We have Doosan Babcock, which is our what we call MRO, maintenance repair overall business in the UK, and we're the biggest provider of MRO services to the coal fleet by far, 75-80% of the market. And we're extending that into Europe and internationally. We're doing some work now in the Middle East on doing some long-term service agreement on HRSGs, and we're also looking at petrochem, which is very similar as well.
Of course.
So it's all that side of the business is very positive, and that fits quite well with a lot of the emissions work and sort of retrofit work that's going on that type of plant at the moment.
Fantastic. Well, Mark, thank you very much. It was great speaking to you.
No problem.
Got a great insight into Doosan and their reach out into the global markets. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Nice to meet you.
And now I'm joined by John Fogarty, Chief Engineer at Doosan Babcock. Well, obviously you're a technology expert, so take me through and just kind of summarise the sort of key technologies that Doosan as a whole company is able to offer.
Okay, Doosan's technologies are geared around the power industry, and basically on the sort of boiler side of it, we have advanced combustion technologies. And if you look at the themes coming out of the conference here, one of the ones is about people being able to meet the IED compliance things. So we have low NOx burners. We have given a paper at the actual conference talking about not just low NOx burners for sort of coal, which we've done in the US, but we've also got a low NOx biomass burner, and we've presented papers there. So on the primary combustion side, that's one of our areas. In terms of other aspects of IED, there's the post combustion, because in order to meet full IED regulations, you won't actually get there with just the primary combustion.
Right.
So the other technologies that we've got, working with customers, because they're obviously trying to match cost against meeting IED. So depending on the state of the plant, we can offer what's called SNCR, and that will take you probably up to 30 to 40% NOx reduction off the primary, and then if the station needs more than that, we can offer a full SCR, and that can give you 80 or 90% reduction.
John, since we're talking about emissions, shall we talk about the sort of elephant in the room here? And of course, what I mean by that is carbon, and therefore the abatement of carbon, and that obviously brings us on to CCS.
Okay, yeah, it's an interesting question, because one of the opening themes that's appearing on all the screens at the conference is, why has CCS failed? And I think I'd just like to get a clarification there that the CC element of CCS, which is carbon capture, the technology is there, the technology is working, it's been demonstrated at sort of large scale. The real question is the storage and the usage. And at the question session there, people were quoting Boundary Dam as an example of CCS successfully operating. And it is successfully operating, but it's CCU and it's not CCS. The carbon that's been captured there is then being sold for enhanced oil recovery, and that enhanced oil recovery makes it economic as a total technology. So I think the issue really is the economics and the policy makers to set the levels so that storage and usage becomes economically viable. And one other aspect associated with CCS is industrial plants, because there's a lot of carbon being emitted there, and in fact a lot of the industrial systems around Europe are going to have to shut down because they won't be IED compliant. So they'll have to look at alternative methods for doing their processes, or they're going to have to capture that storage, capture that carbon. And so one element there that we're looking at as a company is working at a number of clusters of industries, both within the UK and within Scotland, where there is opportunities to bring those together as economies of scale to actually enable us to do that. And so that's another aspect that we're working on.
Excellent, excellent, that's great. Obviously we're in Europe, the market conditions are challenging. You know, you and I have heard over the last couple of days energy transition a lot. A fundamental part of that energy transition is moving from our kind of traditional centralised large-scale plants to something that's much more decentralised and smaller. How is Doosan viewing that, and what are they doing on the technology side to provide solutions?
Yeah, it's quite encouraging to come to the conference and sort of hear all these various discussions, because we are actually internally having a number of sessions internally talking about exactly the same issues. One of the things we're doing on decentralization is we're working with our colleagues in Doosan Fuel Cells in the USA, and we're looking at bringing fuel cells into the European market. There's a huge market for large hospitals and sort of office blocks. Most of the office blocks, particularly in the UK, are installing diesel generators, whereas they could just as easily install fuel cells and have a much greener, and it's a combined heat and power system, so the overall efficiency makes it much more efficient. Absolutely. So that's one area that we're actually working on there.
That's interesting, because I mean, another thing that's sort of coming to the prominence is talking about increasing the efficiency of the built environment. Yeah, so what you've just said with fuel cells, just
as you say, I mean, they offices and hospitals have got diesel generators, and they've got a separate CHP in it, whereas the actual fuel cell actually has waste heat that can be used in the CHP, and that's what we're looking for there. And again, I guess I'll make my appeal to the policymakers there is real opportunities for fuel cells across Europe, and we really need them to start putting the policy and the incentives there to actually do that.
Wonderful. Okay. Well, John, thank you very much. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you.
That's all right. Thank you very much. I've really enjoyed the conference. Thank you. Okay.